Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the first week of March 2018. And I'm going to have a lot of information about Eastern Europe because it has been coming up a lot. And because I am Eastern European, I think it's very important that I report this to the people who are watching me there. And so, this past week, there were a group of Polish right-wing people who attacked Hungarians in Ukraine. And that is a bit of an odd combination. And why would this happen? According to some of the news, that the groups who were attacking had ties to, of course, Russia. They are members of a group called Falanga, which went to Ukraine in the area that is with Russian-backed separatists in the eastern part, and they have joined up with a Polish group which is actually pro-Russian, a political party called Zmiana, which means change. And basically, according to this information, it's part of a wider Russian campaign bent on encouraging ethnic tensions within Ukraine, with the goal of destabilizing the country and antagonizing NATO and its affiliated neighbors, especially Poland and Hungary. What people don't understand is that Ukraine has Polish ethnic groups living within its borders, and it has Hungarians living within its borders, and you ask why, and that's because of World War I and World War II, and the remnants of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the fact that after the Soviet bloc invasion of Europe after World War II, and the punishment of pro-Nazi sides in both East and Western Europe, the borders were changed, and people who were part of certain ethnic groups or nations were trapped within borders of other countries. For example, most of Western Ukraine really belongs to Poland. Most of southwestern Poland used to be part of Germany, and so on. And so that's why there's a mix-up in these areas. There's one Ukrainian group, which is called Najdak, which also has links to Russia. And beneath the surface of all of this, we must remember that Ukraine gained its independence from what was the Soviet Union in 1991, and Poland has always been its ally. But below all of this, there are a lot of diplomatic relation issues from history and the interpretation of history, one of which is centered on an incident called the Volyn Massacre, which was carried out by Ukrainian nationalists against the tens of thousands of Polish people who lived in that area at the end of World War II. Poland considers this crime to be a genocide of its people. But in Ukraine, the perpetrators, which were called the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, or UPA, are considered to be heroes. So this is a big problem. And recently, the chairman of Poland's ruling party, Jarosław Kaczynski, said that Ukraine, unless it faces its own history and resolves a dispute, Poland will prevent Ukraine from connecting to the EU. But of course, as I mentioned a couple of years ago, I found out that there is a huge movement in Eastern Europe to create a Slavic union under the control of Russia. But beyond all that, recently, Poland, or a Polish official last week, said that Germany owes Poland $850 billion, or 690 billion euros, for the damage it inflicted during World War II. Germany killed 6 million Polish citizens and caused great material loss during its 6-year occupation of Poland. Germany has said there is no legal basis for Poland's reparation claims because they claim the matter was settled in a 1953 agreement. However, Poland says the 1953 decision is invalid because it was created by Moscow when Poland was a satellite of the Soviet Union. Since then, Germany has paid a lot of compensation, which are called reparation payments, to individual Polish people, and others, by the way, who were forced laborers or victims of German medical experiments during the Nazi occupation. In addition to all of this, the European Union's Parliament has passed a resolution in support of budget cuts and voting restrictions for Poland on the same day the Holocaust law took effect and has been condemned by Israel and the United States. And so Poland is in a heck of a lot of trouble, both in the EU and in the Middle East and globally. And I have been seeing for the last year or so, daily, especially in Western news, articles which attack Poland to one degree or another. Now, I agree with some of it and disagree with other parts of it. Historically, Western Ukraine does belong to Poland. But so does southwestern Poland belong to Germany. And so the borders should be redrawn, and there should be more consideration for the minorities who are stuck behind certain lines of political power. Going further east to the main source of all of it, to Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin said, he used a concept video of unlimited range nuclear warheads apparently raining down on Florida, where President Donald Trump has his second home, Mar-a-Lago. Putin said, or boasted, that the Kremlin's resurgent military might, during his annual address to his nation's parliament, said that he would render NATO defenses completely useless. Putin claims invincible missiles that can pierce U.S. defenses. And he said that these invincible missiles can travel at hypersonic speed. I quote, "Any use of nuclear weapons against Russia or its allies, any kind of attack, will be regarded as a nuclear attack against Russia, and in response, we will take action instantaneously, no matter what the consequences are. Nobody should have any doubt about that. And I don't, because Putin says and does what he means." He also continued, "Russia still has the greatest nuclear potential in the world, but nobody listened to us." He said, "Listen now." Starting to sound a little bit like Kim Jong-un. And it continues. Putin said, "But even this is not the end. We've developed new strategic weapons that don't use ballistic trajectory at all, which means that missile defense will be useless against it." Now, according to a U.S. State Department spokeswoman, she said, "I do think Vladimir Putin was speaking to one audience. It wasn't anyone in Russia, it was to Donald Trump." I agree with that. And I also believe what Putin says, and as I have stated for the last few years, the Soviet Union has returned, and if this isn't proof enough to you, I don't know what else would be. Now, going back to the lies of global warming, as people in the United States and in Europe have seen this past week with these gigantic winter storms that have created large winds and snowstorms and ice, etc. Guess what else happened? The underside of one of the largest floating ice shelves in the southern oceans off the coast of Antarctica is not melting at all as expected, according to experts. Scientists who were drilling along the western coast of Antarctica found that the Ross ice shelf is actually freezing, but they have no idea why. People, it's Antarctica, and they don't know why it's freezing? How much money did they spend on that? Researchers from New Zealand used a hot water drill to dig deep into the floating ice shelf, which is about the size of Spain and about 1 kilometer thick. Experts lowered a camera into the hole that they had melted and used a thermometer and other instruments. Rather than finding the evidence they expected to confirm the melting, they found icy crystals forming. So, Antarctica is getting colder. It has registered the coldest temperatures and deepest ice and snow in recorded history. And they don't understand why it's ice under the ice shelf. Brilliant. I wonder how much they spent on it. Listen, people, the news is so ridiculous that I can't even research it anymore. Go on.
My turn?
Yes. Unless
right.
you have someone else who would like to speak.
No, nobody over there, just me. Anyway, what I wanted to start off with, first of all, was I wanted to comment because a few people had talked about my pendant that I was wearing.
Oh, your satanic pendant.
Yes. And it's the Waldensian symbol, which I have a little bigger one here. Hopefully you can see.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Lux, lucet in tenebris.
Tenebris means light shines in the darkness.
That's right. And that is the motto of the Waldensian people, or Valdesi. If you don't know about the Waldensian people, you should, because it's history. And we wrote about it in True World History. So be sure you get this book. And if you like this book, this is actually the book that is before this book. If you want to know about who the Illuminati is, what their agenda is, the alien agenda, and what aliens that are out there, read this book. So Blue Blood, True World History will tell you about the Waldensian people, of which I am a descendant. So I also wanted to mention to you about, a lot of people are writing, oh, you're bashing Trump. We specifically said we're really not for anybody.
Yeah, I really don't care about him or anyone else.
Because they're all puppets with the same puppet master.
I don't vote for any political parties whatsoever.
And you don't see the puppet master, you only see the puppets. And then people keep writing in about how they can't find how they're related. You know, it took me 2 seconds. I'm just going to tell you just briefly a couple little stories here. But please do your research. And as I told you before, if you're interested in knowing more about us or our work, we've got plenty of books, we have workshops, we have events. We have our membership on our site. We have so much information to find out about us. Trolls, you get deleted, you go away.
So and trolls are usually ugly anyway.
Yeah. So just brief history. Donald Trump is related to most Icelanders and Danish and Norwegian.
No, not Icelanders.
Yes, Icelanders. That he is a descendant of King Christian I of Denmark and Norway and Sweden.
Oh my God!
And not
I'm
only
embarrassed.
that, he can trace his ancestry to the Scottish royalty. Christian I of Denmark was the father of Queen Margaret of Scotland, the spouse of King James IV of Scotland, and their son, King James IV of Scotland, is Mr. Trump's forefather. And we've already, according to this article, which again, you can look it up, it says his royal ancestors were already reported on, so you can look that up for yourself. Then it goes on to say Hillary Clinton is related through a common ancestor, John Gaunt, son of King Edward III. So that's Hillary and Trump. They're cousins, like I've been telling you. They're all part of the plot. And then it goes on to say that Vice President Dick Cheney and Democratic, at the time of this article, at that time, presidential candidate Senator Barack Obama are distant cousins.
They look so much alike after all.
And it said then Cheney is a blood relation to Mr. Bush. He's Mr. Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Okay, and Obama.
They should be removed, all right.
Then it says Cheney's cousin, Obama, is also Mr. Bush's 11th cousin, 9th cousin of actor Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
Abraham Lincoln was Mr. Bush's 7th cousin, 5 times removed. Mr. Bush was 9th cousin, twice removed with John Kerry.
That's really very confusing.
Princess Diana was Mr. Bush's 11th cousin, twice removed. Marilyn Monroe was his cousin, 9th cousin, actually 3 times removed. Mr. Bush is related to Hugh Hefner, who's of course now deceased. Native American Princess Pocahontas. Vlad the Impaler.
Isn't she in the Senate now?
Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Vlad the Impaler. Madonna. Celine Dion and Tom Hanks.
They're all related
They're all related to Bushes. So this is what I'm telling you. This is just one little fast article that you can put some
Are
things
you in there?
on. No, I'm not in there. I should be.
Should be.
Because I'm related to the Kennedys, which means I guess maybe I'm related to all these other people.
Well, you only related to Kennedys by marriage because your cousin was Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah. Anyway, lots of interesting things going on here. So as I said, do your research. And there's a lot of research out there, and we are not bashing anybody. We're reporting the news and the trends so you can make better decisions about your life and what's going on out there. And in response to what you were talking about, what Putin had to say in his annual State of the Nation address in Moscow, I am suggesting that one of the trends is Trump's controversial military parade. As I brought that up, he's now setting that date for Veterans Day.
Which is
This coming in November.
November.
Yeah, it's many months away.
Ah.
Now, of course, the Democrats are calling it a waste of money.
Yeah, it is.
And I have said personally that Trump is claiming it's to honor the military, and they should really give the military, the individual people who are serving, more money and not, spend millions of dollars on this parade. But my point is, now they're setting us up. This is the trend. Putin's going to, because remember what we just talked about in our last podcast, that Kushner, that's his son-in-law, Trump's son-in-law,
who's been demoted,
claimed that a lot of their money came from Russia. So now Russia is bashing the president, so the president's got to do something back. So now he's going to have this big military parade show. So they're still claiming that's going to go forward. Yeah, and the military people are against it. If you look it up in the Military Times, which I did. Okay, and then moving right along into Canada, one of your favorite subjects.
Oh, they're the most obnoxious people ever.
According to this article, that apparently, which I guess I must have forgotten, but Canada in June of 2016 legalized euthanasia and assisted suicide, which they call MAID, M-A-I-D. And that was for people who were at least 18 years old and whose natural death is reasonably foreseeable. They were permitted to let doctors make those decisions to end their lives.
Well, 18-year-old is not a child, actually.
Well, no, but they're very young. But anyway, I don't believe in it anyway. At this point, I don't believe in it. Anyway, so I'm telling you my opinion. So back in October of 2017, it said the Council of Canadian Academies had been asked to examine whether the practice of euthanasia could be extended to, quote, mature minors.
What does that mean, a mature minor?
It means people under the age of 18.
Who are mature?
Yes. And then the Canadian Pediatric Society at the same time published a study that analyzed the possibility of euthanasia for teens, young children, and newborns.
Newborns, because newborns could decide if they need to go.
So I have a lot of issues with this.
Yeah, I have issues with Canada, period. They have the most ridiculous immigration laws and border immigration laws in the universe.
Yeah. And then Canada, another Canada story, their Senate voted to make the national anthem gender neutral.
Oh, how? Tell me now.
They said apparently the words right now say, quote, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Be altered to, quote, true patriot love in all of us command. And then it went on to say the original French lyrics say, glorious deeds circle your brow. So that was what they said.
Glorious deeds
circle your brow. Okay? But the bill has to go to the Governor General for royal assent, apparently. So that it's not all the way passed, but they're trying. And then there was an interesting little clip on Tucker Carlson I saw about a woman being interviewed who did not like the fact that M-A-N is in the word woman. And so she wants to be called a person. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, you're laughing and it sounds a little ridiculous.
No, she should be called a woe person.
But the issue is that this is more toward androgyny. Because now we don't have a man and a woman, we just have people, person.
Right.
It and thing.
Or they, yeah.
Yeah, it and thing, right? And then this is a tiny little update on the Florida shooting. Now, there was a YouTube viewer that wrote in, and unfortunately his language was very bad, but his...
vulgar, or they couldn't spell?
Vulgar. But his information was good, and this is the thing, I don't understand these people who have good information and then they have to put all these expletives and call names because we're all on the same side.
They just have to show their anger.
Exactly. So it's not about dividing and conquer, or you're already feeding into the system that you claim to be against. So you have to stop this behavior. But anyway, this person wrote in about the Florida shooting, and he was talking about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who the school was named after, who lived to be 108 years old, which I had already read that, but I didn't report on, but I read that. But he also said that the Cubs broke a 108-year-old World Series drought. And then what was interesting is I came across this article in this Black Panther movie that's out now. It said it rules with a whopping 108 million second weekend box office. So I thought that was interesting. We're seeing these 108s surrounding this Florida shooting. So take that for what it's worth.
Sandra, don't the Buddhists have their prayer beads?
108. I think you're correct. Yep, I do. And so there's got to be other layers, like we tell you, layers upon layers. And if you see the layers, tell us, and we'll print them. And I actually put this post up But I kind of said, you know what, you're going to have to deal with your language because next time I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm. God damn you.
And now, which of course, going to our biblical terms, I don't know if you saw this, but of course, always catches my attention when they start throwing around what to me is new terms. Maybe not to you, but have you ever heard of a bombogenesis?
Yeah, they used it a couple of months ago for another storm.
Yeah, but have you heard it before that?
No,
okay.
I only heard it this season.
Okay, because they come up with all these names
Yeah, just
for
like
weather.
they had polar vortex. They started a couple
Right.
of years ago.
And
They said,
naming
it's
the
always
storm.
been like that. No, never heard of it before.
Right, and they're making this sound the same thing. Now there's a nor'easter hitting the East Coast, I think, right
It was
now.
yesterday.
Yesterday. And they're calling that a bomb cyclone. And then they went on to call it a bombogenesis.
Mhm. How about a mambo jumbo?
And then they said it's the merging of two words, bomb and cyclogenesis.
Right.
Now, it says
Sounds like a disease.
all storms are cyclones, which I didn't realize that. Do you?
That's not true.
Okay. Because?
Because it depends on the ocean in which they were created. Indian Ocean, they are called cyclones. In the Pacific, they are called typhoons. In the Atlantic, they are called hurricanes. It's the same storm, different name.
Okay, and I got this directly off of the Weather
So
Channel.
it's false information.
Right, and so that's how they're changing things.
Remember, I used to be an observer for the
remember.
Weather Service.
So what's interesting to me is then it goes on to say that Genesis means the creation or the beginning, which we know that, and bomb refers to explosive development.
Right, so let me explain. This was an artificially created storm that they bombed out like they did with the hurricanes this past summer, and they're doing it now for winter storms.
So what's interesting to me is it's a biblical term because we talked a lot about how they're repeating history. So except their version of it, of course. And then moving into more Illuminati programming. This was very fascinating to me because last week, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Sarah Sanders addressed the media about the Florida high school shooting. So when she asked the attendees to ask questions, she looked in the audience, and lo and behold, there was somebody wearing her dress in the front row. Now,
Wearing
her same dress.
a Sarah?
As Sarah, Kristen Welker, NBC White House correspondent, coincidentally chose a berry, B-E-R-R-Y, that was the color, 3/4 length sleeve shift dress with a bow-tied stand collar, both styling their hair so it covered the bow. Now, what's more interesting...
That doesn't sound like too much coordination.
No, and even in the article, they said they realized they were twinning. And we've talked about the twin Jesuses. We have talked about...
I have a lot more information on that, by the way, come September.
Yeah, so we have, because we have our September class, remember?
I know who the
September
twin is now.
So, twinning is a big thing in the Illuminati. And again, it's spoken about in here. If you want to know about programming, we have 13 Cubed where we talk about it in here. So it was so fascinating to me. This was obviously planned. So you're not going to let that woman sit there in the front row like that unless it
I
was
hope she
planned.
looked better than Sarah Sanders.
They
though.
look the same. They're twinning, remember? Okay, and then this was just kind of an interesting aside. You know, the Confederate flag, of course, is a big deal, right? So in Seattle, some residents complained about a Confederate flag that was flying. And did you hear what? What was it? Do you remember?
It was a Norwegian.
It was a Norwegian flag.
Because Americans are so brilliant, they don't know foreign flags.
Yeah. And then on to our, again, divide and conquer by race.
I'll get that pester booger off of there.
Down in South Africa, did you hear about the vote by the National Assembly that ruled that white South African farmers will be removed from their land?
I heard that when I worked in South Africa.
Well, now they've actually made the vote, and the person who's calling for it is radical Marxist opposition leader Julius Malema. 241 legislators voted for it, 83 against it. And in 2016, Malema told his supporters that he was, quote, not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
Okay, that's going to end well.
Yep. And then there's a deputy CEO of AgriForum said, quote, this motion is based on a distorted image of the past.
Yes.
The term expropriation without compensation is a form of semantic fraud. It is nothing more than racist theft. So the vote will be considered...
Racist by black people.
Yes.
Now, may I explain history? Because South Africa was an empty land before the white settlers from Holland and Germany came there. And then they asked the black Bantu nations and other nations from the north to come down to help work the farms. So it was a white country first, and the black people came afterwards. And that's history.
Yeah, and people don't know that.
And they don't want to know that because I'd be considered a racist.
And they
I'm
wanna-
sure we'll get plenty of notifications on that when this is posted.
And it says, however,
Read history.
that the vote will be considered by the Constitutional Review Committee, which must report back to Parliament by August 30th. So then we'll have more information on this for you. And speaking of racially insensitive, now get this one. A gorilla statue,
I heard about this.
which was in a playground for 19 years in Corsicana, Texas, was removed by city workers because some people complained that Dobby, that's his name, Dobby the gorilla, was racially insensitive.
Why?
Well, they don't exactly
It was a gorilla.
say.
It wasn't. It didn't say this is a black person in a cage. It said this is a freaking gorilla.
I know. It says memorials have sprung up around where the gorilla included signs, bananas, flowers, candles, stuffed animals, and even beer.
Just cut it. And God forbid someone used a cotton swab to clean the cage. The cotton would have been insensitive.
That's true, because black people here in the States used to pick cotton. But like we told you, not just black people were slaves. There were a lot of white people.
And if I wear a
were
cotton
slaves.
shirt, oh my God, I'm a racist.
Oh, you're a black racist because you're wearing black.
Yes.
Maybe you're identifying as a black person.
Yes, I am. I have to move to South
I
Africa.
do. I will tell you.
I need to move to South Africa and take over a farm.
Through a genetic test that one of my family members took, very close to me.
She's part black.
I'm part black, 11%. So I can say what I want now.
She sure is.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, they're calling this Gorilla Gate 2018.
Oh, I'm calling it moron people.
And the mayor said that he was open to the idea of the gorilla returning in some form when people wanted the statue to
Maybe
remain.
a transgender gorilla, perhaps.
Maybe, that's a good idea. So the people held a candlelight vigil. Now this was interesting to me. Last week at the playground as a show of solidarity and a statement that the people of Corsicana will no longer back down and look the other way while those in power get to do whatever they please.
Good for them.
Yeah, and then now Corsicana city councilman posted on Facebook that the gorilla will be returned once the weather permits.
Good.
So Dobby's coming back home.
I'm so glad.
And speaking again of racially insensitive, did you hear about the meal that was served at NYU during Black History Month, which caused 2 workers to get fired? We've been through this one before.
Let's see, was it perhaps corn or chitlins?
No.
Or what else would be?
No.
Ham hocks, watermelon.
Watermelon flavored water,
Oh.
Kool-Aid, macaroni and cheese, barbecue ribs, and collard greens.
I love all that stuff. That means I'm racist.
I mean, you're black. That's why you're identifying as black.
Well, actually, you're black.
Yeah, actually, they're Southern foods. I have to say that they're Southern
It's
foods.
food. It's just
Yeah,
food.
and it doesn't matter if it's a culture. You know, it's there's Appalachian culture. Poor white people ate certain foods. You know, the Waldensian people ate certain foods. You know, different cultures had different foods.
So only white people can eat white bread.
Maybe.
I mean, so stupid.
It is very.
Really
anyway,
stupid.
it caused 2 people to be fired over this, and
Well, I hope
somebody
they sue.
complained. I hope so too. But anyway, they said that, and then of course the university, or no, the food service that provided the meals apologized for making a racially insensitive thing.
It is not.
I know, it's silly. And then now this is something I just want to report to you, because this is a thing that gets me all the time. People forget that animals are animals, and on the news, they're always showing people doing, turning their pets into people, and they're not people. So again, back to South Africa, there's a man there named Kevin Richardson who calls himself the Lion Whisperer. And while he and a colleague were walking 3 lions on their reserve here recently, I think it was just last week, one of them took off after an impala and ran somewhere between 2 and 2.5 kilometers. And this lioness encountered a 22-year-old woman who was waiting to do an interview with the manager of the camp. And unfortunately, the lioness mauled this woman to death.
So she became lunch.
And 22 years old. So the thing is that people forget, that in an instant, these are animals and they can turn on you. So please be careful. I've seen it with pets.
Maybe the woman said something against lion race that was insensitive.
I don't know. But the thing is that people, you have to realize these are animals. They're not people. I don't care if it is lunch, like if it's your lunch, if it's a cow, they're not a person. Now this vegan, vegetarian programming stuff, I think we need to include that in our next book about veganism and vegetarianism.
I already tell people how ridiculous it is.
Yes, but we need to put that in our book, because people that just makes people go insane, because they forget that animals are our food, just like plants are our food.
Yeah, but I wouldn't eat a lion.
Well, if you were in Africa and that's what you were raised with, you would eat one.
I would know.
If you were down there, you would, because that would be your food. So just remember these things, please. And then one more transgender story for you. This is and back in Texas,
Texas is getting a lot of trouble.
yeah, a transgender wrestler named Mac Beggs. He was born a female, but he's going through transitioning, I guess, to a male.
Yeah, right.
He has been forced to wrestle girls. And the girls are upset because he's taking testosterone.
Yeah, hello.
And he's upset, she is upset because she wants to wrestle the boys and they don't want that to happen. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's going to be a continuing trend,
Maybe
especially
they should
in
just
schools.
have robots wrestle him.
So the girls are saying, look, if you want to do this, that's your business, but don't wrestle. You know, he shouldn't be allowed.
This person should not be wrestling females because he's taking
steroids.
muscle building. Yeah,
they're taking
Not
steroids.
fair.
It's not fair. And the thing is, steroids would be illegal for the girls to take, but because it's medically for this other reason. So the reason I bring that up is he doesn't want to do this, and they don't want to do this. But if he wants to wrestle, well, you know, maybe you should wrestle.
Maybe he should rethink his sporting
Decisions.
career.
Yes, and that's the issue, is that some of this is just really, ridiculous, which we know.
It's beyond. Is it any
bizarre.
wonder aliens do what they do?
Yeah, Decoding Your Life, please, Universal Law. Take some time and read this because this will help you with your life. And this month we are working through Choosing Wholeness, which is our health and healing blog, and people who are stuck in childhood. You're going to have to talk about that one.
Why? You can't, the words don't come out of your mouth about that?
No.
Well, in a couple of weeks, maybe like the 18th
Maybe.
of March, I will be starting a new show. It will be a live audience, but it will be taped so that you will be able to see it after it's edited and before it goes into syndication. My first guest will be Laura Eisenhower. And once the promos are completed, in the next couple of days, we'll be posting that, and then you'll get more details about it. And then right after that, I'll be going to Houston, back to Texas again.
Lots of Texas stuff.
All my exes live in Texas. Well, I'll report about what I'm going to do there after I do it. And then, April, Buenos Aires. I was also invited to Santiago, but I don't know about that. I like Santiago, though, but I don't know if I want to
We'll see.
go back there. And then May is Istanbul, and then Italy.
Yeah, and we are down now to 2 spaces.
Because I took one.
2 spaces on our Italian trip. So if you're going to go,
You're not bumping me off.
yeah, you've got to now sign up because we have 2 spaces left. Our cutoff date is April 30th. That's coming around the bend. I've also been telling people that we have people, believe it or not, signed up for our January 2019
Can you
class.
believe it? I don't even know if I'm coming.
Yeah. So the point being is if you're coming in here to Michigan, this is our biggest class, January 2019. Get a hold of customer support at expansions.com.
Yes, but first is September.
Our September Spectacular is always spectacular.
Because this time, people, I have discovered the twin of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm going to report who it was.
Yeah. So we have a lot of information in September. It's a great class. It's not as intense as far as your personal work. It's more intense as far as what we do, fun personal work. It's a more fun class. Yeah, but we do, so it's kind of a different layer.
And it'll be more medically oriented also this September.
We're going to teach you more health and healing work, and then of course we always do a lot of history work in
Hopefully
September.
you will have the book finished by then, the medical book.
We're praying. Right. So we have lots of things going. Remember the Hyperspace Helper. If you want to choose wholeness in your life, Hyperspace Helper, Hyperspace Plus, Healing Archetypes and Symbols. This one is, like I said, this one's very, very popular.
Yeah,
and the
people
other
like that.
excellent companions. The Daily Affirmations book for self-change. Tons and tons and tons of information for your issues. And of course, the White Owl Legends, the archetypal story of creation. This is a fantastic book, which actually, I'm not even going to tell you. You got to go look this one up online. So we've got lots of stuff. And then, of course, 13 Cubed, which I mentioned before, case studies in mind control and programming. And True Reality of Sexuality, very popular. And Stuart Says people love this. It's a short little read, and it's a great coffee table book and a great way to begin discussion with people. And it's not about believing everything we say. It's about we give you the tools so you can investigate and you know for yourself. We teach you to be your own teacher. We teach you to explore your own mind. You have to come to your own conclusions. We can help guide you and we can give you things to think about. You've got to make those choices, who and what you are, and if you're going to control your mind or if you're going to allow others to control your mind.
Yes. May I just make one other couple of comments? And that is, I must say, I've been receiving reports from Europe, but especially the UK, about their, quote, beast from the east storm that they're, of course, blaming on Siberia, Russia again. No, let's blame Russia for every damn thing that happens. Anyway, so they had this one picture where the police are blocking the road, that's white on it, saying, please don't drive at Sunday, and the grass isn't even covered with snow. It's like you could see the grass. It's like, really?
That's a good thing.
I'm so embarrassed for Britain because this, they did lose the empire because they're afraid of snow. And, it's like they had like this much snow on the ground and they're like, oh, we're snowed in. It can't go above my heel. I can't walk. No,
but it'd be very interesting then for them to take Britain and put it in Michigan.
If they spent 1 week here in the winter, they would die.
Yeah. And I hope you're watching our Facebook pages because we have some amazing pictures
about
of
the ice
snow.
in the lake, and that was 3 stories high.
Yeah, and up in Mackinac, up in there.
Yeah.
The ice bridge.
Britain would be like closed for a decade.
Yeah, they would just like all
they would die. They'd all die.
Yeah, because they couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, it's like shit because they just can't be so cold. It's like it says brutal cold. It's like -1, -2 Celsius. Like we call that June.
That's bikini weather,
Please,
right?
-1, and they're hiding in their house. How about -40 people?
Listen to me. That's when you get out your bikini.
That's when I go out naked.
Right.
In fact, I must say, one of my sons heard me singing in the shower this morning, and he couldn't understand all the words, so I said, I'll sing louder next time. I said, in fact, maybe I'll make an album for the people on the internet. He said, well, they'll buy that. And I'm like, and you know what else? A video of me singing in the shower. What do you think, people?
Brown next out that vision.
Write in and let me know if I should do a video of me singing in the shower.
Yeah, I think that you're gonna they're gonna pass out because that's they can't get that picture out of their head now.
Yeah,
that's rough.
And that gives a whole new meaning to lux lucid and tenebrous. Let me tell you.
Okay, so with that said, thank you for watching. Please comment and make it nice.
No, or not, we'll just trash you.
Yeah.
No problem.
But try to watch your language and your verbiage, please. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Like and comment and share our Facebook pages. Help get out hyperspace oversoul tools all over the internet. Join our membership on our website, less than $1 a day. Get to know us. Come to our trip in Italy because I got 2 spaces left.
Yes, and you're not taking mine.
And also join us in September and January 2019 and wherever else you are in the world because we always have lots of exciting things to tell you. And you know what? The most fascinating person you know is you. Is you. So we want to teach you how to find out who and what you are so that you can control your own mind.
Yeah, because you are uncontrollable.
So that said, we will see you next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.